She gave a kidney to her brother and saved his life. But there are people who need both kidneys, and she was one of them. Toward the end, she said, do not be afraid. Just believe.
What sustains people when life plunges them into darkness and difficulty? I set out to explore and document remarkable faith stories from around the world. My journey led me to Rockford, Illinois, where I met Jeff, whose wife's supreme sacrifice helped both of them walk into the light.
I knew Chris from high school. She was the cutest teller at the bank that I banked at. And so I got in her line. And after 3 build up your courage and hope for no rejection line waiting moments, I asked her out. So then we started the dating game, which was loads of fun. She was a very fun person, very pretty. I still had my 64 Impala, my leather coat, and long hair. Her parents, they must have just shook their head. Like, who's she dragging in? But she began talking to me about the Bible. I had no idea about the depth of it or, how to even look at it because, I picked up a Bible once, maybe when we were dating and looked at it, I thought, I haven't read a book this thick in ever. But she kept gently encouraging me. And so I would start going to church with her occasionally. So we got married, started a family very young. I was 19, she was 20 when we had our first child. All this time, because of who she was, I became very interested in understanding the core of her faith. What drove her to be this very faithful woman? And it affected me. It impacted me tremendously, especially when I understood the core, which is the hope of the resurrection. They started to look for a donor. And their children were too small, too young, I should say. And Chris said, I want to be tested. I want to be tested for compatibility. Turns out that she was the closest match of anyone tested. So we met with the doctor and so on, and he explained what could happen, which was serious. They had to cut off her 12th rib, open her up basically from an inch aft of her spine all the way around to her belly button, roughly, because during that time, they took the kidney out whole. He said, you got to go home and talk about this and be sure. Even on the way home, she said, I don't have any hesitation. I want to do this. She said, are you okay with it? And I said, yes, absolutely. Neither one of us had any hesitation. And at the core of it wasn't so much her love for her brother, which she did. She loved him a lot. But at the core of it really was her gift of selflessness. She was a selfless person. Back then, a kidney transplant was much easier for the receiver than for the donor. What she went through was then an 8-week recovery. And it was very difficult to watch because they had wounded her pretty seriously. But she had no regrets. She never complained, even though I could see how painful it was. I was watching what real faith looks like, because she could have lost her life. It brought deep introspection. I thought to myself, what if I was the perfect match? Would I do that? she needed two. She was one of the ones that needed two, and they didn't know that. And so ever since her donation, ever since she sacrificed that kidney for her brother, her kidney health was going downhill, and the numbers were getting worse and worse and worse. I think the visit that really drove this point home, her nephrologist said, because you're a donor, I can get you into the front of the line for a transplant. And that's when it really hit us that this is a critical path. There's no turning back. It's a terminal disease. The only choice you have is dialysis and a transplant, or walk to the light. And we had to have that conversation. It came down to that. I'll never forget that day. And I remember this vividly. She said, I don't want to put anybody else through what I went through. I've also watched my brother now. He's got other health issues. And she said, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I don't want to put somebody else through it. I don't want to have that life. I'm looking at quality of life, not quantity of life. I said, then the other path, I just want to be abundantly clear. The other path is hospice. That's the two paths. And she said, no, I'm going to walk to the light. I want to walk with my Lord. So I had to announce what was going on with our kids, our family, our friends. And there were those who did not agree with her choice. They did not agree. And they were vocal about it. When she was challenged about her decision, especially by our children, she was able to state to them, look, this isn't the end for me. I know it's the end of our association in this life, but it's not the end. The resurrection is sure. It's certain. Her faith was a thing of beauty to behold. And it drove, I'm not kidding, it drove every action of her. Part of her core was cemented in the words of Jesus Christ, saying, don't be afraid, just believe. And it's my favorite phrase of him. And she lived that mantra, don't be afraid, just believe. And then later, she would say, Jesus is the king of my heart. She would use that phrase a lot, especially toward the end. She would say to anybody who visited, Jesus is the king of my heart. I'm walking to his light. Don't be afraid. Because the resurrection is absolutely the central and pivotal point of the message of Jesus Christ. She never looked back. She didn't fear it. She wasn't afraid because she knew, she was absolutely certain, and so am I, of the resurrection. I have this image of her resurrected. It warms the hole in my heart because I can see her. I can see her in the resurrected state.